What happens when a progressive rock god plays on the record of a famous pop balladeer? This right here. One of Rick Wakeman's most well-known contributions as a session musician is the piano part in Morning Has Broken by Cat Stevens. Let's see what we can learn from this. Here is a high-level view of the structure. Cat Stevens sings a total of 4 verses. The first 2 are in the key of C, the third one is in D, and the last one is in C again. And then there's the piano sections. The intro starts in D and modulates to C to set up the first verse. Then there's an interlude between the first 2 verses, which are both in C, so the piano just stays in C to connect them. The next interlude, between verses 2 and 3, modulates from C to D to set up that third verse, the one that's in D. The next and last interlude, the one between verses 3 and 4, does the opposite. It modulates from D back down to C, like the intro. And then after the last verse, we have the outro, which once again modulates from C to D for the ending. Let's start with the intro. It sounds like this. Harmonically, it starts with 1, 4, 5 in D. Then it moves to the relative minor key, B minor, via its 5-chord F sharp. Then he uses the B as a pivot note and goes to G7 over B. And now we're in the key of C, and he finishes with 1, 4, 1 in C. That's 3 different key centers, D, B minor and C. Now let's look at what Rick plays exactly. And there's a link to the whole piano part of the song in the description below. The overall texture is single note arpeggios with occasional double stops. Rhythmically, he alternates between 2 patterns. 1 bar of this and 1 bar of this. He starts out with a D chord, which he arpeggiates like this. Next he plays a G chord, but he stays on a D in the left hand, which makes it second inversion. And then instead of the 16th note rhythm at the end of the bar, like he played in bar 1, he uses a different technique to create momentum, a passing tone. Next he plays an A major chord in root position. This one spans an octave with the root on either side of the voicing. And once again he doubles up on the rhythm at the end of the bar. In bar 4 he plays an F sharp chord, which sets up the move to the key of B minor. Once again it's in root position, with the root doubled at the octave, and with a passing note at the end of the bar. Here's what he plays on the B minor chord that follows. Notice that that's pretty much the same pattern as for the A chord, only the first note doesn't have the double stop. Notice also that he varies both the placement of the double stops on beats 1, the end of 2 or the 3, as well as the interval. So far we've heard sixths, thirds, fifth, and octaves. This unpredictability enhances the impression that this is a live musician playing with natural variations, rather than a part that is completely worked out ahead of time, or even programmed in a DAW. So he started in the key of D, then moved to the relative key of B minor. This could also be interpreted as still being in D major, since they share the same key signature. But now he modulates down to the key of C major with this awesome chord. He repeats the B, the root of the B minor chord that he just played, and turns it into the third of the G7 chord. This is definitely the hippest chord we've heard so far. It is a dominant 7th chord. It's not in the key of D or B minor, and it has the third in the bass, which is way less stable than the root or the fifth. This then resolves convincingly to a C major add 9 chord, which he arpeggiates like this. And then we get this plagal move to the 4 chord F, which, just like the G over D chord in bar 2, is in second inversion, so F over C. And then he resolves back to C, and that's the end of the intro. Awesome stuff! So seemingly simple and yet deceptively complex. Alright, the next piano section is the interlude between the first two verses. They're both in C, so this interlude starts and ends in C. Here's what it sounds like. The first 3 bars are an exact copy of the first 3 bars of the intro, only a whole step down. Then we get E to A minor, which in this case I would consider to still be in the key of C, so the E chord functions as a secondary dominant. The first 2 beats of the E chord are the same pattern he played on the A chord in the intro and on the G chord in the bar right before E. It's important to recognize these similarities between different sections of the song. It deepens our understanding of the music, plus it makes it easier to play. And then on beat 3 we get another passing tone leading to the next chord. Notice also that the third is in the bass here on the E chord, which creates more urgency for it to resolve to A minor. Here's another connection. The pattern on the A minor add 9 is almost identical to the one he used on the C add 9 in the intro. In the last 3 bars of this section, we got G major with a second inversion right hand voicing, and that resolves to C, first in first inversion, then in second, and then he ends the whole interlude on a suspended 5 dominant chord with this beautiful chordal voicing. So now we got one more new section, which is the interlude between verses 2 and 3. Verse 2 is in C and verse 3 is in D. So this interlude starts in C and then modulates to set up the key of D. Here's what it sounds like. The first 3 bars are once again the same as in the previous 2 piano sections, with one little exception. He plays a 16th note fill at the end of bar 2. You'll see that in this third piano part in general, he raises the stakes by playing more of those fast 16th note fills. In bar 4 we get E over G sharp again, which resolves to A minor again. And then here's where the modulation happens. He repeats those 2 chords a whole step higher, so F sharp to B minor. And now we're in the key of D. He then goes to a G chord, then to D, the new tonic chord. Then he plays A7 while staying on the D in the bass, until he finally finishes on the tonic chord D. This sets up the only vocal verse that's in the key of D. Notice this beautiful melody that's embedded in the last few bars. And that's pretty much it for the piano sections. There's one more interlude between verses 3 and 4, which is essentially the same as the intro. And then there's an outro, which is the same as the second interlude. And then there's one more contribution that Rick Wakeman makes to the arrangement. And that is a series of arpeggiated fills in verses 2, 3, and 4. Like this one. Or this one. Or this one. And that's it for today. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Peace and love.